This year, EA has provided us with a fascinating pair of sequels to two beloved franchises. Skate, which I will henceforth be referring to as Skate 4, and Battlefield 6. And while they are obviously quite different from each other, I think that together these games paint a pretty intriguing picture of the modern AAA games industry, with them almost perfectly exemplifying the two polar opposite directions that AAA game franchises are going in 2025. One being a very faithful, albeit relatively unambitious continuation and modernization of the series, and the other feeling like a husk of its former self, lacking confidence in its own identity and the identity of its own franchise, thus trying and failing to be something else entirely. Hello everybody, my name is Dylan, and in this Game Yap, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I want to examine why I think these games succeed and fail to be continuations of their respective franchises. While Battlefield 6 may be relatively lacking in ambitious new ideas or, bold evolutions of the genre, it focuses on being the best version of what it is rather than trying to be something that it isn't. On the other hand, Skate 4, at least at a glance, does seem to be attempting to change the franchise in some meaningful capacity, to do more than just be another entry in the franchise, which is definitely something I can respect on the surface. However, it doesn't really take long skating around this map to realize that any steps forward for the franchise are accompanied by an equal or greater amount of massive steps backwards. Pretty much everything that made Skate 3 and games similar to it so great has entirely been sanded off in order to make room for more TikTok clippable moments. I mean, if I open the map right now, look at how empty most of the map is. Most people are congregating to the same, 3 fucking locations. And as if that weren't enough, it's also crammed to the brim with monetization that's so fucking slimy, manipulative, and aggressive. I might be impressed if I wasn't so offended. And so in this video, I'm going to swap back and forth between the two games, between Skate 4 and Battlefield 6. I'm going to talk about what I think each of them get right, what they get wrong, how they could improve, and what all of it says about the state of the AAA games industry today. And in order to make this more digestible for you at home, and also to, ensure my thoughts don't get too disorganized, I've structured it into an internet-friendly, numbered list. Let's get started.
Part 1. Who the fuck is this guy?
So before I get too deep into it, I just feel like I want to get a few things out of the way about my history with these games, because I think it'll, very much help frame the discussion at large. I didn't ever play the Skate franchise as a kid. Maybe a couple of times played Skate 2 at my cousin's house, but really I don't have a huge personal attachment or memories or nostalgia for it. Fuck you. My friend convinced me to try the Skate 4... My friend convinced me to try the Skate 4 playtest with him because he did grow up with the Skate games. And after playing it and feeling just how buttery smooth and satisfying the core skating felt, I decided to go back and give Skate 3 a try, which is a game that I owned but never played. And it's an incredible game. Even without nostalgia, Skate 3 is straight up magical. And playing it alongside continuing to give the playtest a fair shot has really made Skate 4's weaknesses just a lot more glaring. And as for Battlefield, I did play it quite a bit as a kid, but it was never my go-to game franchise by any means, so I don't have a lot of strong personal attachments to the series. I'm not super passionate about any of the games, but I do have fond memories. Battlefield 1 was probably the biggest time sink that I had in the series, and I want to make it clear that in the case of both games, I'm not complaining. My complaints are not directed at the developers of the games, the employees and programmers that actually do all the fucking hard work. I am upset at EA and the corporate monoliths that continue to focus test and broadly appeal their franchises into the fucking grave. Or barring that, they'll cram so many microtransactions and baffling corporate motivated decisions into them that it becomes hard to enjoy them without getting a bad taste in your mouth, which so far Battlefield 6 has avoided, but I would be sadly unsurprised to see those types of microtransactions pop up later in this game's life cycle. I will be holding out hope that this game can avoid that and remain at least mostly unsullied by corporate greed, but the game could look completely different in a year given the inevitability of major content updates. And that goes pretty much doubly so for all of my critiques of Skate 4. They could all be made void in the future as well, especially given the early access state of the game. But one, if your game has a fully functioning storefront, multiple in-game currencies, and battle passes, I don't give a fuck what you call it, I expect it to at least be done. And two, I'm not holding my breath waiting for EA to fix what's truly wrong at the core of Skate 4 anytime soon. With that being said, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. He said gritty.
Part 2. How do they look?
Bad. This game isn't exactly doing anything... Oh my god. This game isn't exactly doing anything revolutionary on a visual level. But again, they know exactly what they are, and they are just doing their best to deliver the highest quality version of that they can. As I'm sure you've probably already noticed, the real difference between Battlefield 6 and Skate 4 is that one of them understands their target demographic a lot better. Battlefield 6 really kept to the core identity of the Battlefield series, specifically the modern military shooter versions of Battlefield. This series has always been one of those top-of-the-line graphics benchmarks in terms of, you know, what can be accomplished when it comes to getting close to photorealism. This is no exception to that rule. The fidelity and lighting are both very impressive. The destruction looks just kind of unbelievably good, and that just comes with the, you know, upgrade in hardware. The last time a modern military Battlefield came out was the beginning of the Xbox One generation, so we are long removed from those days. That being said, we're still a little bit stuck in the sort of brown and gray singularity that modern FPS games were stuck in the 2010s. You know, it makes sense seeing as this is like a return to form for the Battlefield franchise, and some maps are more colorful than others, and those ones stand out, but a lot of them aren't, and they kind of just blend together in that brown, gray, green mush. And again, I understand that that's very much true to the modern military FPS genre, to have the colors be, you know, more washed out and gray. But just because I understand it doesn't mean I have to like it. Games really never needed to look any better than, like, Battlefield 1, and I don't know if this game does look better than Battlefield 1. It's hard to say because it's, you know, very different aesthetically. So, you know, on a graphical level, much like on every other level in Battlefield 6, they're not really doing anything revolutionary, but they are sort of attempting to reach as close to perfection as they can with the formula they've already got, and I think that was the way to go. Conversely, if you manage to ignore the, like, Uncanny Valley Pixar art style of the actual playable characters, this game actually doesn't look that bad. Damn. I actually think the ragdoll physics are a huge step up, as are the general animations. Like, they're pretty fucking smooth. In a microcosm, this game doesn't look awful. Even the lighting effects are pretty solid. Like, I do think there are some moments of true beauty that can shine through when you're not skating through these giant skyscraper monolith areas that are the entire city for some reason. On the whole, the city is just way too polished and clean and corporate feeling. Even the areas that they tried to, you know, fix, quote unquote, and make feel more disheveled or dirty or, you know, lived in, it doesn't really work. I don't care how many piles of litter you put or graffiti you draw, no amount of that is going to make a skate park feel dirty when the overall art style is so clean. Also, the whole idea behind a city that is specifically dedicated to skating, I feel like just kind of goes against what skater culture is. What the shit just happened? Okay. It feels gentrified, you know, for lack of a better word. Everything just has this fresh out of the box shine. It just does not work. It almost makes it more uncanny. A lot of my favorite moments playing Skate 3 have been the ones where I'm just skating through abandoned factories with the sun beaming and the soundtrack hitting just right and the wind whistling in my hair. Basically, the grit and grime and the wear and tear and, you know, all of that stuff, it's not just a stylistic choice. It's kind of integral to the game's identity and immersive elements. Skate 3 would not have half the reputation it has today if it looked like this when it came out. And I'm going to say that for a fact, even though it is just an opinion. I've never been a skater. I scooter, so feel free to bully me in the comments. Though, you know, shockingly, I spent a lot of time in skate parks alongside skaters, and it was one of the most welcoming communities ever. I feel like it's a pretty negative stereotype that skaters make fun of kids on scooters at skate parks. And the skaters there were often very encouraging. But even without that first-hand experience, it doesn't take a fucking genius to look at skater culture and understand that it's a very counterculture movement. It's not just about having the skater brands and using the lingo and having skate parks that you can skate around in. Ooh, that's all it is. That's all that matters. I mean, it reads so heavily like the "How do you do, fellow kids" meme, which, I mean, for Christ's sake, in that meme, the guy's literally holding a skateboard because he wants to fit in more with the because he wants to fit in more with the youths. I'm rambling, but my point is, for a 15-year-old game, you know, that we are now 2 console generations removed from, Skate 3 manages to pack so much more detail and character into its visuals that it puts Skate 4 to shame. Your clothes get dirty, your board gets scuffed up, you get fucking straight up wounded. The environments are all scuffed up from rigorous use by skaters, or just from general wear and tear. It's clear a lot of thought went into distinguishing the different areas of the maps, which complement the different skating styles you'll employ while you're in them, whereas here in Skate 4, every area of the map feels exactly the same. You skate it the same way, you're looking for similar spots, and somehow, despite the lore being that this place was literally designed for you to skate, there are as many good skating spots in this entire map that there are in, like, a fucking 1 square mile of Skate 3's levels. To wrap up, visually speaking, I don't think this game is doomed. I do genuinely think that with some tweaking to the overall aesthetic and, you know, the details within the visuals, you could get this game to a place of looking immersive and exciting to skate around, and more in line with the aesthetic that I think makes skating such a intriguing thing for so many people who don't do it in real life. But as it is, it's just a fucking gentrified, corporatized husk of a world that they're pretending is designed for you, but really it was designed for farming clips. And that's pretty much it.
Part 3. How do they play?
Whee! The core skating mechanics in this game actually feel really fucking good, I can't lie. They feel like a decently significant improvement over Skate 3's, at least on a technical level. The stick flicking actually feels a little bit more accurate than it was in Skate 3. It feels a little less janky. It feels like perhaps 15 years of improvement over Skate 3 in terms of technological aspects. Despite that, the level design and inclusion of mechanics like climbing and rolling faster than you can skate for some fucking reason. Hold on. Why the fuck is this in the game? The inclusion of those baffling mechanics kind of kills any enthusiasm I can muster about the smooth core gameplay of the skating itself. It feels quite good to skate on a purely fundamental level. It's responsive, it's satisfying. It feels smoother and less janky than a game from 15 fucking years ago. Hooray! But when the map is so scarcely populated with any interesting spots to skate, or any big, long, steep hills for me to bomb down, it doesn't really matter how good the core skating feels. I'm still choosing Skate 3 if I just want to skate around and have a good time. The intangibles really do matter here. And the climbing mechanic was something I wasn't particularly against when I saw its inclusion, but after playing Skate 3, I realized how fundamentally being able to climb on certain spots kind of just breaks the flow of traversal in the map. There doesn't really need to be any thought or care put into how you're going to get from place to place, or how a real skater would have to access certain high-up locations. The tangible risk-reward is kind of just gone, because you can just fucking Assassin's Creed parkour scale a building, a skyscraper, if you so desire. There's no reason I would ever choose this game over Skate 3, when that game is chock full of these fun, interesting spots that encourage the player to get creative, actually make the world into your skate park, rather than having the world be made into a skate park for you. And it provides some actually sick-ass regular old skate parks as well, and big pools that you can skate in. On the other hand, I've done a decent amount of exploring the map of Skate 4, and not once have I found a spot that made me even half as excited as, like, the library stairs in the university, or the arena ramp, or like the spillway entrance, or the big pool skate park in the industrial area that I don't remember the name of. Off the top of my head, there are just so many incredible spots that, like, make me excited to return to, because I want to see what else I can come up with on them, even if I've already skated them 100 times. Whereas here, you're gonna Christ air the church window and you're gonna fucking like it! I mean, I remember my brain just fucking lighting up when I would see lines to skate on these seemingly normal everyday areas of the world that feels fully realized. It feels like every area was meticulously laid out to be as skatable as possible, or at the very least so that you can blow by the less skatable parts as quickly as possible. It wasn't just about the big moments and the spectacle and the giant, drops. Everything in between those moments was given just as much attention and care, and you can feel it when you're skating around. Because you'll find a seemingly mundane area that might not even be, marked as a location on the map or a spot or whatever. Oh my god, that looked like it hurt. Oh my god, I'm remembering the line from the ribbon park in Skate 3 that goes through the apartments. Fuck, man. I have yet to find anything in Skate 4 that makes me even half as excited as any of those areas I've previously mentioned. I'd much rather be playing Skate 3 right now just so I can be a little more positive. You know what? Actually, hold on. Oh yeah, baby. To demonstrate what I think is lacking about Skate 4, I think it would probably help if we played a little Skate 3 so I can show you what it looks like when it's done correctly. And also because I really want to play more Skate 3. I like Skate 3 is a fun game. Oh fuck. Yeah, I'm good, bro. I mean, it took like 15 seconds to find a couple of things that Skate 3 just does better. Woo! Woo! But I mean, right there, I crashed, my clothes got scuffed up, my board is already scuffed up, I got a little injured on my fall, and somebody checked to ask if I was okay after crashing on a staircase, like a regular person probably would. You can immediately see how much detail is lacking in Skate 4. And I mean, on a visual level, this just feels so much more realistic. I feel like the scale in Skate 4 is really fucked up. I don't know if that's just a placebo thing, but everything feels so much bigger than it needs to be. The scale feels so strange. Even though it was designed specifically with skating in mind by a team of level designers, it looks normal enough that I feel like the creative one for coming up with the skate spots that the developers probably had in mind the whole time. It keenly takes into account how you would actually traverse this area, like as a real regular person who can't free climb the side of a skyscraper with their bare hands. It just makes the act of finding spots so much more satisfying. Also, hearing that lady cheer for me after I did that trick gave me a dopamine rush. Perhaps Skate 4 is more convenient and easy to get around, but that also isn't a good thing. It's actually exciting and fun just to get around on the skateboard, which is kind of, I feel like, half the premise of what makes skateboarding so cool. Ow, fuck. Again, speaking as sort of an outsider because I was a scooter kid, what was fun about scootering, just getting around on the scooter was intrinsically enjoyable. And look at my shoes are all scuffed up, and when I stand up, I'm gonna turn around and I'm probably gonna have injuries. I mean, my hands are scraped up, my eyes bruised. It's real as shit. It's actually true to life, despite having such obvious immersion breaking shit like crashing out and obviously fracturing all of your bones and then just kind of standing back up. And they even embrace that with Hall of Meat, which is also a feature that's missing from— oh, I'm so sorry. Which is also a feature that's missing from Skate 4. As if everything else I've talked about wasn't enough, they don't even have all of the features that this game from 15 years ago has. I mean, there are so many areas in Skate 4 that are just fucking devoid of anything even remotely interesting. You also can't sketch to the back of cars in Skate 4. So this big open city with a bunch of cars driving around, you can't even get around it in the most efficient way. The most efficient way to get around in that game is to roll, silly. And I'm not saying there are no long stretches of nothing in Skate 3 either, but even those have a little bit of flavor to them. Like right here, look at this. This is actually the perfect example of what I'm talking about. This bump in the sidewalk that's probably here from this tree root growing under it. Fucking, it's such a simple thing, but it adds such another layer of detail and immersion, which, I mean, like, take a shot every time I've said either of those words if you don't want to wake up tomorrow. I mean, I'm just skating around some fucking neighborhood outside of a university. And on a gameplay level, it feels more like it was engineered personally for me to skate than the actual city that was manufactured specifically for me to skate. It's genuinely kind of hilarious that they managed to do that. Skate 4 seems to be much more interested in recreating the magic of places like the Quarry, these more spectacle-based, big, bombastic things for you to do.
Oh, looking pretty classy today, bro.
The fuck did you say to me? In Skate 4, they seem to have put way more effort into trying to recreate the magic of a spot like this than they did into making the places in between feel actually fleshed out and meaningful. Oh, as cool as bombing the quarry is, I feel like the more exciting part of this area is when you get past it. I remember first playing Skate 3 shortly after the playtest of Skate 4, and my friend voicing his disdain for it and telling me I had to try Skate 3. And the moment that really sold it was skating through here for the first time. Because I went to the quarry, because it's the spot I knew, it was iconic, I did it. And then when I finished it, I just skated through here, and I had the soundtrack on, and it was playing a beautiful song as I skated through this abandoned factory area, and my hair and my clothes were blowing in the wind, and I felt so immersed, and it felt so magical, and I felt so excited to figure out a spot to skate here, even if it's a spot as simple as, like, this little staircase. It's not necessarily the tangible parts of it, like the objective reality of a staircase as a skating spot, you know, because that is a simple-ass spot back there that you could probably find plenty of spots like in Skate 4. But what Skate 4 is missing is the soul. As much as I hate when people call a game a soulless cash grab, it is really what Skate 4 feels like, just kind of on a fundamental level. It feels like something is wrong whenever I play it, something's missing, and playing Skate 3 makes it readily apparent what those things that are missing are. In this game, the space between the spots is often more exciting or more interesting than the spots themselves. I think this is my favorite spot in the whole game. Just a big-ass pool of varying depths to skate around in and try new tricks and stuff. Most of my favorite spots in this game are relatively mundane, but they clearly had so much thought and care put into making them feel simultaneously true to life and also like they were perfectly engineered to make skating through them as frictionless as possible. Skate 4's map focuses so much on making spots that create viral moments that they kind of forgot to make the rest of it any fun at all. And the reason Skate 3 has had such a lasting impact on so many people and has so much staying power in the cultural zeitgeist isn't just because of those funny falling off a cliff and breaking all your bones moments. It's because of those spaces in between. When you're not doing something crazy bombastic, it allows you to get immersed in a world that still feels like it's there when you are not. That feels like it exists without you and that you are simply dipping your toes in and carving it up and trying to make it your own. And then falling on your face. Which is something Skate 4 is very familiar with. Okay, anyway. Now back to the battle fight. Oh, damn it. Back on the battlefield side of things, this is another aspect of the game's design where they don't really take a lot of large strides or deviations from the core Battlefield formula. The biggest shakeup here is unlocking the weapon types for any class and also the ability to drag your squad mates backwards while reviving them. Small, seemingly insignificant changes that can really enhance the already solid core gameplay of Battlefield. And they even include a game mode that goes back to the restricted weapons if you aren't a fan of that change, so like there's no need to complain about it. Right, guys? On a fundamental level, the gunplay is really excellent, as is, you know, sort of all of the general gameplay. The shooting's really nice. It's very satisfying and viscerally rewarding. The hit registration can get a little bit fucked, but it's not an often enough occurrence that it ruins my enjoyment of the game at large. Now, in terms of those levels, they are definitely a bit smaller on average than we are used to from Battlefield, or at least that I am used to from Battlefield. But still, I do miss some of the massive, impressing scale of like a Battlefield 1 map, or even like a 2042 map. But what is here is solid. Also, as somebody who has gone back to Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1 recently, you know, once the first beta ended for Battlefield 6, as someone who has gone back to the older entries in the series, you can definitely feel the evolution of the gameplay just in terms of smoothness and, you know, a decade's worth of hardware innovation, which should definitely, of course, be the standard. You know, sequels that come out a decade after the previous game should feel like they've had a decade of additional technology to work with. If you're paying even a modicum of attention to the AAA games industry, then you know that that is not always the case. Like I've already touched on, a lot of what makes this game so great is its adherence to a pretty standard Battlefield formula. Not every game needs to be like fucking Disco Elysium or Outer Wilds. Sometimes a modern military Battlefield game is a very fun thing to enjoy, and the fact that it's just doing that to a very high degree of quality is definitely a valuable thing. And I'm just fucking mowing these kids down. It's kind of embarrassing for them. This game's about to end and I have more to say, so that sucks. But anyways, speaking of things that suck,
Part 4. How do they make money?
It costs $70. That's it. You can pay $100 for like the Phantom Edition, but that's it. You know, at least for now.
I really hope that doesn't age poorly.
God, that's literally all I have. I fucking realizing that I have so much less to say about Battlefield 6, especially with regards to monetization. It succeeds in really being completely as straightforward as possible with its monetization. On the other hand, now, as if a fully functioning storefront on day one in an early access game wasn't offensive enough, as if adding a battle pass before even adding features that were present in games from 15 years ago wasn't offensive enough, as if gacha mechanics for unlocking free cosmetics wasn't offensive enough. What you can get for free is fucking ugly, because they want you to pay them more money in order to make your character look even remotely unique or cool or interesting or like anything at all. I mean, the fit I'm wearing right now isn't exactly gonna fucking win any awards by any means, but it is infinitely better than anything I could make with just free cosmetics in Skate 4. Oh yeah, and this game has paid DLC. Speaking of how it makes money, you buy it and then you pay for the DLC maps that they release, and then you don't spend any more money on it after that. And don't get it twisted, I'm certain that if Skate 3 released in 2025 exactly the same as it is now, except for the microtransactions, EA would be fucking putting their money-hungry little paws all over it and, you know, ruining the sanctity of my beloved. But, like, I bought the DLC because I wanted more maps to skate around in. And now I'm done paying money for Skate 3 forever. You know, I own everything that this game has to offer, and now I don't have to worry about spending any more money on it now. Hooray! Content updates to Skate 4 are going to be free, I assume,
And hope to not be proven wrong about in the future.
and because of the way they handle the cosmetics and microtransactions, it means that everybody who plays the game for free is going to have the same variations on like 4 different outfits that the free-to-plays get to use, while everybody else gets to make a skater that actually, you know, resembles their own fashion sense or gets completely wacky with it. Again, the fit I'm wearing in Skate 3 right now isn't gonna win any awards, but like it's something I probably would wear if I was gonna go out skating, and I got to just, you know, customize my skater to my heart's content because nothing was locked behind a paywall. Ow. And that's why Skate exists, especially in the way it does, because it's an easier business model to cram full of ridiculously overpriced microtransactions, and to at the very least mitigate some of the negative feedback by saying, well, it's free to play and you get all the content for free, as though that's somehow an excuse for the rampant microtransaction advertisement and gacha mechanics and, you know, whoa. It is unfortunately common practice for most AAA games to attempt to monetize themselves as aggressively as possible for short-term gain rather than long-term sustainability. But there are exceptions to that rule, and one of them is fucking Battlefield 6 is giving me at least a little bit of hope that perhaps the executives at EA and other AAA game publishers, with the bricks lodged in their foreheads, will finally see that people like a game that costs what is the current standard AAA game price of $70, and it's got some inconsequential cosmetic rewards or progression boosters for people who bought the Phantom Edition or who pre-ordered it or whatever, just like God intended. As much as that's kind of like the standard from a decade ago, it is getting less and less common. I can't see shit because of that tree. It is getting less and less common for games to just cost standard AAA pricing and have it be the end of the discussion, that you pay money for it and then it's over. I have hope but little faith that EA will keep it that way. So to attempt to sort of succinctly summarize my thoughts, I must admit it is a little hard to focus, you know, playing Battlefield. Game Yap games are at least usually a little bit more chill than this. Oh god. In an attempt to summarize, I think what makes Battlefield 6 and Skate 4 such fascinating foils to each other is that they fail and succeed on much the same principle. While Battlefield 6 attempts to go back to the roots of what made people fall in love with the franchise in the first place and what they have been asking for more of, Skate 4, which you can just pretend I'm playing right now because I'm not going back to it, simply chased after what they viewed as the most widely marketable product they could possibly produce. And in attempting to make a game that would appeal to anyone, including non-fans of the Skate franchise, they ended up making a game that will actually please nobody. Fans of the original games are just going to be alienated by the obvious lack of care for the aesthetics and soul of skating culture, as well as the general downgrades to stuff like graphical detail and atmosphere and immersion and variety of game modes, and pretty much everything else that isn't the core skating. And people who have never played the games before will find nothing of high enough quality or intrigue to keep them engaged with the game for long enough to spend enough money on it to keep the servers online. All of the TikTok spots will get old, the new audience will move on to the next thing, and the core fans will simply go back to the games that they loved from the past. I give it 3 years, and that's me being, like, really generous, especially if this first season of Skate 4 content is anything to go by. I don't think it's long for this world unless they make some really significant changes to their priorities. The bottom line really is that it's not too late for them to change, and it's also not like the changes that they would need to make would be so sweeping and significant that they would be impossible, but I'm not going to hold out any hope for Skate 4 personally. Battlefield 6 may absolutely trend in the direction of egregious microtransactions or immersion-breaking cosmetics in the future, but I am choosing to remain optimistic that they will manage to not fuck it up, and hoping even harder that Battlefield 6's success will set a precedent for other studios going forwards. Show them that by sticking to what made your franchise so beloved in the first place, you will be more successful than if you attempt to change the fundamental aspects and identity of your game to appeal to the most people. After all, a game for everybody is a game for nobody, which is a lesson that fortunately Battlefield 6 seems to have learned, and that Skate 4 desperately needs to if they want to survive. What an anticlimactic way to end the Battlefield section.
Part 5. How am I gonna end this video?
I'm just gonna hit a nasty-ass line right here. Observe. Damn it. Fucking... Oh! No! What the? No! How the fuck? Whoa! Woo! Like and subscribe. Comment with your thoughts if you agree, disagree, whatever. Hope you enjoyed the Game Yap. I'll see you next time.